I clicked it.
Uh, Background music?
That might be me. 1 second, sorry.
Do you hear some noise, Lisa?
Yeah, it sounds like,
We're on a spaceship.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's Spaceship Montgomery. I'm asking Lisa.
Oh.
There we go. It's a washing machine.
Not ours.
Not
I don't know
ours.
that ball. Completely forgot about it, to be honest. Everybody's in, by the way.
So everybody's in?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Delance. Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you taking the time to allow our construction team and our construction manager to walk you through our replacement project. And so I'm going to jump right to our true MC on this. It'll be Matt Braun. Matt Braun, remember, is our project manager. And so, Matt, you want to take it away?
I will. Thanks, Paul. Hey, good evening, everyone. It's really great to be here with you. I just want to do a quick mic check. Everybody can hear me okay? Thumbs up. Yes. Awesome. Thanks for having us here. It's been a couple of years of putting together this project. Just to go back in time for a second, I want to remind everyone that there were ongoing problems in 2016 and 2018. There was some failures. In 2021, I believe it was, Compass Project Solutions got a phone call asking us to consider coming in as an owner's rep. We took a few months to understand the challenges in the history, understood it was a massive undertaking, and we put together an RFP for a three-part proposal. There was a feasibility study to understand what the options were on the table. And there were 5 options that were considered in that feasibility study. The early contract was awarded to a group called Charter, who was partnered with J.H. Kelly. Second part was to do design phase services. Before we could get that design phase services going, Charter had to drop out of the project. We resolicited. I&E submitted along with J.H. Kelly. And J.H. Kelly had, again, a great answer, and they'd actually polished some of the answers they had from the previous selection, shortened up the schedule, maintained the cost. And from that period of time, we wrapped up the second phase. And then last year, we're getting ready to break ground nearly a year ago. And some litigation came forward that challenged a loan that was put before the community. So we put the project on hold yet again. Some settlements came through. We restarted the third and construction phase and spent this last fall working through the details of how we were going to do a lung replacement on a living patient. That is, how we're going to do the HVAC system in an occupied 29-story high-rise building. And the team has been spending the last few months dialing in the procurement issues, finishing up the permit drawings, and putting together a comprehensive feasibility, or I should say, a tactical and strategic plan in order for us to maximize impact on the HVAC system while minimizing impact to the residents in the facility. I don't want to downplay this or talk about, play down the challenges too much, but I do believe we've got a solid plan that is going to be as comfortable as possible for the folks who are coming in. So with that, I'd like to take a few minutes to actually introduce to you the various players who are on this team, starting with your ownership group, the Cosmopolitan HVAC Committee. And from the very beginning, there was a small group of dedicated volunteers from your community who have really been participating and providing advisement to us as we're canvassing the market and looking for solutions. We talked to, I want to say, 15 different organizations, from general contractors to mechanical contractors, lots of different ways, and design teams also, just trying to put together the best package. And your HVAC committee was right there with us the entire way. So I wanted to tell them thank you, acknowledge them. I know that many of them, if not all of them, are here in this meeting now, and they will continue to be involved as we move through this project. So that's the HVAC committee. I won't ask them to stand up and introduce themselves, but they are certainly one of the core leadership teams involved in this project. Next slide. So at Compass Project Solutions, we've got myself as Senior Project Manager. Ricardo Besterol is the principal in charge and owner of Compass Project Solutions. Hannah, will you introduce yourself really quickly?
Good evening. My name is Hannah Tyson. I will be the project manager on this project, client side, and your go-between with any questions and the contractor side.
Excellent. And then Eden, or is Eden Davis on? I know, actually, I think he had a wedding to go to tonight. He told me that a couple days ago. So Eden will be our on the boots on the ground project coordinator. So he will be responsible for posting signage, fielding questions, coordinating access to facilities, really playing that pivotal role between the contracting team, the CHR team, the Compass team, and just maintaining smooth operations and making sure folks understand what's happening. And then fielding, of course, a lot of the comms that will be coming through for the group. So that's the Compass project team. Next slide. Corey, would you take a moment for you and your team to get introduced? I&E Construction and J.H. Kelly are the contractors.
Absolutely, thank you. I'm Corey Rydell, Senior Project Manager for I&E Construction. Colin, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Colin Hallberg with I&E Construction. I'll be the project manager.
Jim Cleghorn's going to be the lead superintendent on the project. He was unable to join us tonight, but he'll be a face you'll see a lot. Baron, you want to introduce your team?
I'm Baron Adams, Vice President for Special Projects for J.H. Kelly, and also acting as the project executive on this project. Travis Young has seen this project for the last 3 years with me. He is the estimator and will be behind the scenes for the remainder of the project.
Thanks, folks. Next slide. And then Delance, will you please introduce your team?
Yes, so as you all know, for the email that I sent out, Derek is currently on leave. So for the meantime, we have Scott Pinson from Columbia Hospitality, and he's the regional for all of Columbia Hospitality. So we have a pretty good, strong support system.
Columbia Hospitality will be a very key player in making sure folks are notified and playing a clearinghouse for calls and emails that come through. They also have visibility to the Cosmo emails that you'll be seeing. We'll be coordinating access, any parking challenges, clearing things out, notifications, weekly updates. Delance and his team are going to be in the middle of this. We will be coordinating and working closely with them. Thank you, Delance, for taking the time. Next slide. So agenda, project team introductions. You can see we've gone through those already. Introduce you to the folks you'll be seeing over the next year and a few months. We'll talk about in a minute the project background. I've given a little bit of an overview about how we got to where we are. Next, we'll be talking about what the work is that's upcoming. We're going to talk about the implementation plan, how it is we're going to be doing the work. There will be a technical overview, and then we're going to wrap this up with an information session, Q&A, and then the final closing. Our goal is to be done at 7 o'clock. We will do our best to get through all questions and all topics. There is a cognitive fatigue that happens with humans at the end of the day, especially in a 2-hour meeting. If we get to a point where it just feels like we got a couple more issues that deserve a global conversation with the community, then we're reserving the right to have a second follow-up town hall meeting if it feels like something that the board and the HVAC committee want us to do. But we're going to do our best in the next hour and 50 minutes to knock through all of the material and answer all of your questions and really lay out the plan for how we're going to be executing the work here. Next slide. So just, this isn't news, I hope, to anybody on this call. There have been pervasive and fundamental failures. There has been a catastrophically defective, malfunctioning, leaky VRF system, variable refrigerant flow system. It's an LG system that was a manufacturer. It has been ongoing since as I said, 2018, I think is when the first big failures started happening. There's been hundreds of thousands of dollars spent in repairs along the way. There's been litigation, and a first of 2 lawsuits has been settled. There's a whole legal conversation that's outside the purview of this conversation, but I do know that the board and their attorneys are pursuing all legal justification or retribution to the final end. So for us to talk about here today, we looked at the 5 different options and settled on what's called a water source heat pump. So you'll see documents coming through here that refer to a water source heat pump or a WSHP. If you want to understand kind of visually what this might look like or how it operates, you can think of houses that you've been to that have outdoor AC units or heat pumps, electric airside heat pumps. Instead of rejecting through a fan to the atmosphere, we actually put it into water. And that water, if it's chilled, goes to a boiler to be heated. If it's heated, then it goes to a cooling tower to be cooled. And then that provides a more or less constant temperature that takes the rejection heat from the heat pump that is in your unit and puts it into the pipe. The big difference, and we'll be talking about this throughout the evening, is that the VRF system, the variable refrigerant flow, has all of its compressors that sit up on the roof. It takes oil and refrigerant, pushes it through pipes down through the building, 29 floors. Lots of pipes, 2 pipes per. And what we are going to be doing is really consolidating it to 2 large water pipes. The pumps that are going to be sized for a 29 floor building, the first floor will be going to a more traditional, what we call 1-to-1. It's basically like a more traditional heat pump. It has a compressor outside. Those things will be exhausting into the garage on an air side. But the systems that are in your facilities are going to have compressors inside of them. We'll talk through noise impacts, acoustical attenuation, the mock-ups we're doing to deal with that. But that is really the big difference. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the size of the unit that is going into the closet where your current fan coil unit is. So when you open up your mechanical closet, look above your washing machine, open up that hatch in the ceiling, whatever your unit is laid out like, that is a fan coil unit. We'll be replacing something with nearly the exact same size. That's called a water source heat pump. And in that water source heat pump, there's a compressor and a fan. So that is what the configuration is. We will be having some times coming up. We'll talk about this further, where you're going to have an opportunity to look at that in the field long before it gets put into your unit. So that is why we're here and what it is we're going to address. And after all the studies and work that have been done, the path that was determined to be the most beneficial for the community as a long-term solution for the benefit of your entire community and for your building. So that brings us to how we got here today. And that's a quick summary. All the documents, the feasibility study and these other things are available and can be read upon request. Delance, I believe, has ability to get those to you. So if you'd like a more technical overview and dive deeper into the details of this assessment, that is certainly going to be available to anybody who asks. Next slide. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over now to I&E, who is going to lead us through how are we going to do this.
Thanks, Matt. So yeah, we've taken a very aggressive approach on this is scheduled to minimize the impact to you homeowners. This is just a milestone overview. We're going to be digging into more of the details of the schedule as we go through, but just kind of touch on the milestones. So the unit walks to confirm the existing conditions for equipment ordering. That's starting 1:15 tomorrow. We'll cover that more in detail as we move along. Install the mock-up HVAC equipment for acoustical review in the guest suites 434, 435 begins on February 21st. The owner HVAC mock-up review of those units will start on December 4th. There'll be a couple weeks duration there for that, for you folks to come check it out. Construction crews mobilize. That begins on March 10th. Mechanical shaft and elevator lobby work at all levels will begin March 24th. The rooftop work with the street closures for the crane, which we'll be showing slides on as well, is estimated now around 10/10/25. The interior work inside the units, which includes the demo, the install, the finishes, levels 2 through 24, anticipates start end of October 2025. The special occupancy units, same thing, the demo, install, finish, so on. We anticipate being around March 10th of 26, and then the construction crew demobilize and vacate all areas around March 24th through April 6th. Next slide, please. Phase by phase schedule, which we're going to break down and go through with more detail. So I'm going to kind of just run through them quick now. January 15th, 17th, again, is the required access that we talked about before to analyze and do the ordering of the units. Guest suite HVAC mock-up for the acoustical review. We'll talk about construction crews, mobilization, mechanical shaft at all levels, elevator lobby, in-unit work, common area split system heat pumps, and the crane and roof work. Next slide.
So
Yeah, go ahead, Barry.
phase one. So starting tomorrow, we will be on site going through the units. First unit will access at 8:30 in the morning, and we're going to start at the 28th floor and just work our way down. We kind of gave a block of time as what went out as notices. As you can see on this slide, it kind of gives a range that we're staying about 20 to 25 minutes per floor. These are real rough guidelines. So what I'd tell all of you is it's plus or minus about 30 minutes as we work through the day. So our goal is to be out of the building no later than 3:30 tomorrow afternoon. Next slide. So starting on Thursday, again, we have an 8:30 start time, and our goal is to be out of there no later than about 2:30. And as you can see, walking back down through the building, all about the same time, 20 to 25 minutes per floor. Next slide. Once we get down to the larger podium area, floors 2 through 4 for Friday, we have a lot more units to cover, as you know. So those floors are going to take some more time. So almost 2 hours for that first floor on the 4th floor, and then hour and a half there forward. So we're hoping to be out of there on Friday no later than 1:30, 2 o'clock. So again, plus or minus about 30 minutes, and we'll be going door to door, just walking down the hallways. Next
Baron,
slide.
can you, sorry, real quick, can you just describe what it is you need to go see and how long that's going to take? And
Yeah,
what
thank you,
anybody
Matt.
might need to do for them to see it?
Yeah, so our goal is to be in your unit no more than 5 minutes. Most of the units we know exactly where the fan coil's at, and we're really going in to figure out if it's a left-hand unit or a right-hand unit. Now there's a handful of units, roughly 12 of them, that have horizontal units. Those ones are sitting up in the ceilings, and we'll bring in a ladder and access that ceiling one. Those ones may take 5 to 7 minutes to access. But that's kind of the goal. Once we're in your unit, we need to make some notes on our spreadsheet to make sure we're ordering the right water source heat pump. Our orders are due this Friday, and that's the reason why we're going through every unit to make sure we order the appropriate water source heat pump for your unit. All right, next slide. And
Colin,
kicking it
you
back
wanna-
over to you, Corey.
Yeah. Colin, you want to run with this one?
Yeah, so Corey already touched on this a little bit, but we're going to use the guest suites for two purposes. Initially, we're going to mobilize and use them, one, for an acoustical study. We're going to get a baseline reading on the existing VRF system. And then once we've got that, we're going to come back. We're going to install a water source heat pump in this unit, 434. And once the installation is complete, owners and residents, they'll have an opportunity to schedule a time to come tour that unit, come observe it, check out the thermostat, see what it looks like, how it sounds, for their input. And then following that, we'll be using these spaces for our construction offices for the duration of the project. So we're going to be in there for approximately a year, vacating March of 26. Next slide, please. So the level 1 parking garage just kind of lays out our use of this space. When we do mobilize mid-March, we're going to be using the level 1 parking garage for material, equipment, and staging. There's going to be a lot of activity in this space. The area highlighted in orange is a shared access route, right? We're going to have equipment deliveries. We'll be making those on Northwest 11th, but then we're going to need to bring material and equipment into the building. So there's going to be a shared access with vehicles and forklift activity happening in this space. We will have a spotter at all times at that doorway. And I think that's about all I have. Next slide, please.
I think Delance, you were going to talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, so once we in the next couple of weeks, I'll be sending out an update in regards to bicycle transfers. I'll send a kind of an SOP and a guideline, and I'll work with each one of you individually to assign your new bike space, since the temporary crew break room will be using bike room B, if I'm not mistaken. And we'll transfer your bike room across the hall to bike room A. So more updates on that coming soon.
What?
I think the other thing that is worth noting on here, Delance, is some of the other expectations that the construction project are putting on residents. There's some, because of the amount of material, equipment, and people who are being moved through the building, we need to restrict what is the biggest challenge on high rises, which is vertical transportation. So we'll be showing you in a little bit what the elevator usage is. But when you see it, you'll understand the challenges here. We really need move in and move out to be done off hours. So if there are any moves planned in the next year that don't happen in the next month or so, we are looking at evenings and weekends for move in, move out. Dock access hours. So if you've got a washing machine, a dishwasher, a refrigerator, a large piece of equipment, we need 24 hours of notice. That can be done through Delance, who will coordinate with the project team, how to get that dock access. And we'll be planning on probably an hour or two window, hopefully less, where we can make that dock available and get people available to put those appliances into the A elevator, which services that dock and goes up to all the floors. All of the deliveries do need to be happening off hours. Bike parking was just discussed, and toilet location. The other thing I wanted to flag is that where your wine bottles are placed right now down in the trash room is going to become a vented Santa can. So a portable toilet will be placed in there with a duct that goes and a fan that goes out to the outside. So the room isn't going to smell worse than it does now, maybe even better. And that intent is to be a central toilet place for the workers to use. And then the other thing that we wanted to make sure we flagged on here is the expectation of everybody who works on this project to be badged. And we'll go through some of the expectations that we have for workers in order to get a badge. But we wanted to flag these issues as constraints that are placed on the community as a result of the project.
Thanks, Matt.
All right.
Colin?
Yeah, so here we're used for the elevator. Elevator A is going to be dedicated to construction activities, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then we're going to have a shared elevator for B and C. So you can expect to see construction personnel with their tools moving about the building in B and C, but we're using elevator A for big material deliveries and movement throughout the building. The hours noted 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. You know, that's worst case scenario. You can expect to see activity, starting at 7 a.m., but hopefully most days we'll be demobilizing and out of there typically around 4:30, 5 o'clock. Next slide.
This is kind of an example of how many floors we'll be touching at any given time. Like we touched on, it's our goal to make the impact of time as little as possible. So it's a very aggressive schedule. This right here really shows how many floors we'll be touching at any given time. This is a clip of basically the month of June. And if you look through this, this shows you that we're basically touching at various stages of construction up to 18 floors. It also kind of shows why it's so necessary for us to maintain control of that elevator A. If we're touching that much and we have piping going up and we have drywall going up and we have paint going up or whatever it is, in order to facilitate this aggressive schedule, we need to be able to control that. So this is just kind of preparing you for how much we're going to be spread out throughout your project there. Next slide.
If I can take a second, can you go back real quick? For those of you who aren't familiar with the Gantt chart, I'll just walk through real quickly a lesson here. If you grab any point up above, that's a date. So you could go, you can see there's a big broad band that says June and one that says July. If you were to take a line and drop it from there straight down through the activities to the bottom, every time you hit a blue bar, you're hitting an activity. So you can pick any one of these blue bars that are dropped down, and you can see that within a day or so, and each one of these bars is 2 floors. there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 floors just right here on one particular day when we might be working on the project. And then if you want to take a week span or a 2-week span, you can see that on any given 2-week span, which you just take that line and expand it to say half of that month, you can see that the swath of floors that we're working on across those 10 business days is enormous. So I really wanted to walk folks through the Gantt chart to understand like what it is we're trying to convey, which is a tremendous amount of touch points in the building. For those of you who are curious about where's my specific unit and when are you going to be there, I want to make a promise now. We'll cover this in a little bit. We'll be issuing in the next 2 weeks our projections of when we will be in each unit on a 5-floor basis through the rest of the project. We're going to be out in the lobbies. We're going to be in the hall and the corridors starting in March, but then we'll be coming into units starting in September. And if you're trying to figure out, well, where do I need to be in October, November, December, that information is coming, and I'll follow up on this comment in a little bit. But this is the total impact in 2 months on the building, and we wanted you to understand and appreciate that. Thanks, folks.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, and the way we really look at this, we break the project into 3 basic categories. The mechanical shaft being one, which we'll talk about here, the elevator lobbies being the second, and the unit work being the third. The mechanical shaft work, as you can see highlighted in red, this is that shaft that runs up all the way to the 28th floor from the 2nd floor. This is where we're going to be starting, and we're going to be, which means we'll be touching and staging in these lobbies, elevator lobbies, but the work itself is taking place, taking those risers from basically the ground floor, although it's the 2nd floor, all the way up to the 28th floor. To facilitate the access, obviously maintain safety, crews will install temporary access doors in the mechanical shaft. So you guys have seen, we have several of those smaller doors we put in here kind of in the phase 1 pre-construction. Those are going to be replaced with man doors so we can access those areas and get the equipment in and out. And the crews will be removing existing mechanical equipment in the shaft to make way for the new piping we have going in. Next slide, please. Second phase is the elevator lobby work. And as you can see here, once we go vertical on all those shafts and we get all that piping in the shafts and pipe it out into the ceiling of those elevator lobbies, then we're going to come in each of those elevator lobbies and we're going to start doing the distribution that's going to go down through the elevator lobby ceilings to each one of the units. Remove pathways in the ceiling for the new mechanical piping. Mechanical piping will be installed from the mechanical shafts to the entry of the doorways. When we do this work, our intent is to get all this piping in to the units and then finish all these elevator lobbies so that it's not open the entire duration. Each one of these areas, that's the intent. Once we get it done, we want to finish it up. The shafts themselves will still have doors on them for a bit longer, but it's a finished area. But once we get in and out of these lobbies, we'll be finishing them out, including the drywall painting, the whole nines. Next
So
slide.
real quick, Corey, can you address accessibility into the lobbies and kind of people get to their units while you're working in the lobbies, and what's it going to be like? And
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to be collaborating together in those lobbies at the time. We will have supervisory personnel to make sure that we can get people through. There are certain times where it might take a minute or two if somebody's working off a scaffold or what have you, that we may need your patience a little bit just in getting them moved out of the way so you can get it in and out. But the intention is we won't be shutting down the lobbies. You will have access in and out of your units at that time, but it will be cohabitated throughout the duration while we're doing that work at different times. Hope that answers your question now. Okay, next slide. And then the third is really the in-unit work. So in talking about this gives you kind of an idea of the duration of us being in your space. So the owner removing furniture, artwork, etc. We'll talk a little bit more about this, but as Matt stated, and you'll see here in the next couple slides, there'll be a layout routing for each unit. We'll be sending those out a month ahead of time before we come into your unit, so you know specifically to your unit what our routing is going to be. if in that time frame, in that month, you want to have us come in and walk in with you just to clarify the routing, clarify what kind of artwork, furniture would need to be moved, we're happy to do that with you. And that's what that owner removes furniture, artwork, et cetera is discussing. We'll have a day just before we get started where we'll go in and photo document and video document all of the existing conditions. We'll then install in day one, 1 to 2, install the temporary finished protections, which you'll see some examples of that here in some follow-up slides. 2 to 4 is the demolition of the pathways from the unit entry doorway to the mechanical closet and electrical panel. 4 to 6, remove existing and install the new mechanical equipment, piping, and electrical wiring. 10 to 16 is reinstall the framing, drywall, patch, and paint. Then we've got a final cleaning and then an owner acceptance walk. So this is just kind of a general what you can plan on, but it's depending on the size of the unit, it might, we might beat it a couple days here or there, but this is kind of worst case scenario. Next slide. This kind of gives you just a broad look at an example of one floor plan of what those routings look like for this particular floor plan. The red lines are kind of where we will have to go to, be it to get to electrical or get to those mechanical closets where those water source heat pumps are going to be installed. This is an example though of everybody's going to get it for your particular unit, showing that a month ahead of when we come into your unit. Next slide. And here's when Barron's gonna talk a little bit more in depth about HVAC and what that means for those routings. Go ahead, Barry.
So just as Corey was talking about, we're essentially connecting the dots. If you think of your front door is where we'll leave the corridor work, right above your front door, that's our access pathway to connect that dot with your closet or location of your current fan coil. So as you can see in these drawings depict the red line starting at the front door and going to that fan coil closet. And then from there, we also need to connect the dots from your electrical panel back to that fan coil. The two things there is there's not currently a water line going to the fan coils, which we need to run. And then 2, the electrical that is going to the current ones is not large enough to power the new fan coil with compressor attached. So we've given examples here in the tower of the 1412 unit and the 1414 unit to give you 2 different examples. In the 1412, you can see the electrical panels real close to the fan coil, real short run there. In 1414, we have to traverse across a bedroom. So 2 different styles, and each of you will get your own layout of how that will be routed through your unit. And then for those that have spaces in the special occupancy down on the first floor, a little bit different layout. We're going through garage and corridor areas, but similar type of opening of sheetrock and other finishes to get the new fan coil in place. Next slide. Here's some other common area locations. Again, everything on the first floor will be replaced with a 1-to-1 unit. A little bit different, and that'll be happening on the front end of the project, as you saw in the schedule a little bit earlier. But again, connecting the dots, it's just all going out to that first floor garage rather than to the water source system. Next slide. Corey, you want to start with the crane and I'll fill on the backside?
Yeah. So when we get to the crane and rooftop work, there's 2 picks total. One, the main pick is with the big crane. That's going to be all the stuff, the rooftop. That's going to be our first pick, which I think the slide earlier showed you is right around the 10th of October. That, just so everybody knows, that date might move a little bit here or there. Weather's a big, wind's a big variable to that, but it's going to be right about that date. When this work starts, we're going to start it on a Friday at 5 p.m. and we're going to go till Monday to 6 p.m. and it's going to be 24 hours a day. Our window is small. The first 12 hours, just so everybody understands, is going to be really erecting that crane. And the last roughly 12 hours is going to be de-erecting the crane. There'll be the crane will be set on overton, as noted over here, as you can see behind where the crane shows to the left. And then this depiction really shows kind of to what level, how high we gotta reach to pick everything off the roof. We will have flaggers to facilitate pedestrian and traffic and access in and out of the building, so that'll be taking place at all times. The second pick will happen at a later date. It's with a much smaller crane, and that's to pick the equipment off that fourth floor mezzanine equipment landing area. So, but that'll be a much smaller event at that point in time down the road. Barry, you got anything to add?
Yeah, so as Corey was saying, we'll be operating 24/7 over this 3-day period. We have this already broken down into every 15-minute segment. There's either something going up on the roof or coming off the roof. As you're aware, all the VRF equipment sits up there. So the first thing we have to do is pull all of that off the roof to make way for the new CUP, as we call it, which is Central Utility Plant. Further on in the slide, you'll see some reference to CUP. And again, that stands for Central Utility Plant. That'll be your boiler, cooling tower, all the main part of the system that provides the power to the loop, or putting BTUs on or taking BTUs off for it. But that will definitely be a very busy weekend with trucks coming in and out. We'll have trucks lined up on Overton with equipment either coming off the building or going on the building. If there's a weekend to not be around, it is going to be that weekend, just to give you a heads up. Everybody likes to see a big crane up in the air, but it's going to be so busy. It's going to be hard to access the garage that weekend. That you may be waiting 30 to 45 minutes to get either in the garage or out of the garage. So we definitely recommend, if you can, stay away. If you're going to stay in the building, if you can just walk around town, and we'll leave access open out the main entrance for that weekend.
Next slide. Colin?
Yeah, so working hours, I already touched on this a little bit earlier, but just to reiterate, you can expect to see us mid-March from 7 a.m. Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. You know, the typical durations when we're in the units, you'll see us 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. That's what we'll be shooting for. But on occasion, you know, depending upon whatever might be taking place, we need to maintain schedule. There might be instances where we need to stay a little later, and that could be up into 6 p.m. But just know that we're going to be pushing for that 4:30 departure as a typical. Corey already touched on it. When we are on site doing the crane and hoisting activities, we'll be there 24/7 through that weekend. Next slide, please. So safety and security is our #1 priority with building occupants, construction personnel, everyone involved. We want to maintain that at all times. Starting with security, construction personnel, they're going to use the garage door as their main means of entry. Residents will be issued a dashboard placard for their mirrors so that we can monitor who's coming and going and know that residents are actually residents, because there will be times when we have forklift traffic, doors are going to be open. We just need to navigate the movement of people in and out and make sure that we're maintaining security. When we are working in your units, we won't be there solo. We're going to be 2 workers at a minimum at all times, no matter what's taking place. Next slide, please. So background checks, everyone involved is going to go through a background check. I&E Construction will determine the project eligibility in general, murder, perjury, fraud, forgery, those kinds of things. If someone has that on the record, they're not going to be on site. Next slide, please. Safety and security, again, crew orientation. So when any of our crew are coming on board, they're going to go through an orientation so they understand what our standard operating procedures are. They know what we expect. Everyone's on the same page. Everyone's going to get that orientation before they perform anything, any kind of work, anything in the building. They'll have gone through a background check. They'll receive their orientation, and then they're going to get crew identification. So full time, once they're on site, they're going to have badges for everyone to read and see. It'll be imperative for them to show that, have it available for any occupants or residents that want to verify who's on site and why they're here. Next slide, please.
So we've kind of gone through and talked about the things that we're doing. We're going to have door monitors. We're going to have placards on cars. We're going to have ID and badge and background checks for everybody who's working on the project. We're going to have folks working in tandem. We will, if we're in unit, we'll be closing the door behind us. If you want to access or have a friend access that unit, they have to with the key. We will not be letting people who are not construction workers into apartments. We are asking for a few things to help us in keeping folks and stuff safe. First off, a month ahead of time, you'll be getting a map with that red line down it that shows where we need to go access it. And we need you to remove art and valuables and other things from that route. We will be putting protection up to protect the rest of the space, but removing personal products and personal devices is not something I&E is covered to do. So we need you to do that. The second thing is that when workers are there, we just showed you a schedule that it could be up to 18 days, 18 working days in unit. That would be, as they said, the longest typical unit. We would like to have pets removed from the apartment, best case. At a minimum, we need pets put behind a shut door so that they aren't hassling workers. We would like to have 0 minors, nobody underage in the units. We will have, of course, we won't be leaving people in there alone, but we don't want to have a position where minors are in there. And then the final thing is we really don't want any disputes. We've done our best to bring in construction workers who have passed our background checks and are badged, and we're keeping an eye on them. But we would think it would be in everybody's best interest if we were prudent unit owners and moved valuables, art, grandma's heirloom, wedding ring, whatever it is, and put it into a safe and secure spot. We'll do our best, and we'd like to encourage other folks to do the prudent thing and also take care of your stuff. So just because we've gone through all of this, I don't want anybody to assume that everything's great. I'm not saying that we've got a bunch of problem folks coming to the project, but we're just, I think, taking this good fences, make good neighbors mentality and helping create a secure space in your apartment. And then, as was mentioned earlier, we will be doing photo documentation, video documentation before and after, so that we can see exactly the condition that things were in when we began the work and can document what the work was like when we left and walked away. So that's kind of the 2 parentheses on this clause of how to keep your spaces safe and secure and keep things moving in a good direction. So thanks for letting us talk a little bit about what you can do to help us serve your community.
All right, so temporary heating, there will be a period of time that we do need to provide temporary heat. We're going to leave the existing system in place for as long as we can, but once we get to near the end of fall this year into winter, there's going to be time where we're going to cut off that service, at which point we'll be relying on temporary heating. We're going to supply oil-filled electric heaters to all the units, 1 for every bedroom, and then 1 for the common space of each individual unit. Next slide, please. So what to expect when we come into your unit. Temporary finish protection, we're going to maintain that daily. We're going to show you some slides here later on of what that actually looks like, but keeping the work area clean is an imperative. You're going to see floor protection in the means of a heavy plastic sheet with the felt backing, and then corrugated plastic along the walls. And then we're also going to utilize a zip wall system. If any of you are familiar with that, we'll show you photos later. We're going to install it the day we arrive in that unit. It'll stay in place until the work is complete. And then right as we're completing painting activities, we'll be removing that temporary finish protection. Matt already talked about this, but while crews are inside the units, no unaccompanied minors, and then we ask that pets be secured in a room away from the work area. Next slide, please. So here's some photos. We were in earlier this week, utilized the guest suite to mock up our temporary protection, for an example. The green sheet is on the floor. It has a felt backing, and then we'll tape all the joints. Then we install the wall protection in the black corrugated plastic, tape that to each other. It provides a really robust temporary finish protection system. Next slide, please.
And those are the same space, right? What we're looking
Correct.
at there is a shot at the same door in normal condition and one protected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so again, this is the same space. It's just kind of showing you that sequence of installation. This is that zip wall system. So in open areas where we're not constrained to walls, we'll utilize this zip wall system. It's more or less a sheet that's held in place by poles that are telescoping and spring loaded. One thing I want to note, we're showing a doorway. So we understand there's going to be conditions where people still need to come and go, right? We can't just block off access to your spaces. While we're in the unit performing work, these curtains or that doorway will be in the closed position. At a minimum, when we vacate at the end of the day, we're going to roll those doors up, clean everything up, and leave it in an accessible condition while we're not there. Yeah, next slide, please. And this is again the same photo, but with the doors in the closed position, just to give you an idea of what that'll look like once we're in there. Yeah, so elevators and lobbies, they're going to be some similarities to the in-unit temporary protection. During construction, we will have a operator in elevator A, operating that car, moving materials in and out and up and down. As far as the elevator cars and lobbies are concerned, the temporary protection, like I said, it'll look just very similar to what we're using on the in-unit protection, with the green felt backed corrugated plastic on the floors, black plastic, corrugated plastic on the walls. In the elevator cars themselves, we're utilizing a mixture of both to protect the elevator cars. Next slide. Hand it off to Baron.
So water source heat pump, or WSHP as abbreviated. These will be your new fan coils that are going in place of the existing VRF fan coils. Really the main difference of them is that they have two compressors inside of them. These are about as high end as you can get when it comes to a water source heat pump. They are the quietest and the most efficient we found on the market. We actually reviewed 5 different brands, and these ones were leaps and bounds quieter than anything else available. Next slide. So one of the big items I've heard over the last 3 years being engaged at the Cosmo is I cannot access my thermostat to adjust remotely like most everybody else can in the world. So the Climate Master thermostat is actually Wi-Fi enabled. So as we go through and get all of these set up individually, we will help you get this on your phone and get an account set up. At that point in time, we'll have a conversation with each person. The goal here is to give JH Kelly long-term access to the thermostat, because one of the key features of these water source heat pumps and the Wi-Fi thermostat is we can remotely monitor or troubleshoot if you do have any issues down the road and save a service trip for a technician. Next slide. So this is a little more detail on how that communication works. And as you see in the bottom left-hand corner, this service technician van, that is JH Kelly at the end of the day. And again, just to make sure everybody's aware of, this is a Apple and Android compatible app. Next slide.
So I wanted to take
Matt.
a second to talk through some differences. There may be some details in here that not everybody understood, but it's we'll talk about them, and then we'll talk about how things are changing moving forward. So currently, all equipment except for the thermostat and the in-condo fan coil unit, that's the big, mechanical box sitting in your closet or above your head, is maintained by the HOA. And for overall system functionality, the HOA manager manages the filter changes at the fan coil unit by the condo. And the reason for that is that because the system is fully intertied, if one condo unit doesn't change their filter, it actually can impact the whole system. So in order to avoid impacts to neighbors, that process, even though it's maintaining a fan coil unit owned by your unit, it is actually done by the HOA. Energy is paid for by the HOA on all components except for the indoor fan coil unit. The fan coil unit energy is simply that. It's a fan that blows air across a coil. All the condenser power, all of the refrigerant cycling, all those pumps are managed and run and powered by central power, the HOA plant. In the future, with the new water source heat pump, the HOA will own and perform maintenance on the central utility plant, the cup that we talked about earlier, that's up on the roof, and the distribution piping and pumps from the cup to the new water source heat pump units. The cup system includes the cooling tower, the boilers, the pumps, the piping, controls. But the individual owners, the condo owners, you will own, maintain, and pay for the energy of the respective new water source heat pump and thermostat. The unit will require quarterly, at a minimum, quarterly filter change if you've got heavy dust use in there. If you're throwing clay or doing lots of drywall work or bringing a lot of dogs in from the park, you might have more hair or dust loading, so you'll need to monitor and change that filter. And then the cost of the filter change, along with any future service or repair, falls on the responsibility of each unit owner. And then the other thing that I'm going to kick it back to the construction team. So the ownership of that unit belongs to you, but so does the warranty. And these are warranted for, Baron, 2 years.
The base warranty is 2 years, and we have some options for buy up to 5 years.
Okay. So you may be asking, well, what does this do to my bill? So let's go to the next one, and we'll let J.H. Kelly walk through what energy usage and cost looks like.
So as you all are aware of, I am sure the majority of your energy bills, or electric bills to be specific, are pretty low for your unit. So in these pie charts, mainly focus on the lower 2 pie charts. The main one to point out first on the left is the VRF equipment. Shows basically rough total usage per unit on a standard unit is $1,200 per year. On the water source heat pump, you see a slight reduction of $1,050. So a little more than 10% reduction in overall energy. So this is actually a very energy efficient system. The main thing to note here is you see the flop from $840 on the left of the association cost. So call it about 70% of the cost lands on the HOA paying that bill to keep all of the condensers on the outside of the building running throughout the year. Then as a unit owner, you're paying that other 30-ish% or $360 in this pie chart. So you're paying a very small part, or roughly 30% of the overall energy. Now, once we install the water source heat pump system, it almost reverses itself. The majority of that cost will fall on the condo owner and not on the HOA. So you'll see a flip in those energy consumptions. If you don't stay at this is again a general unit, assuming occupancy 12 months of the year. If you're not there and it's not consuming energy, then you'll see the benefit of that. If you like to keep your place super warm in the wintertime and super cool in the summertime, you'll be paying for that as an individual condo owner instead of as an association as a whole. But again, really the main thing behind this slide is to show you that the new system that's going in is as efficient, if not more efficient, than the current VRF system.
And then the correlation here, and you implied it, Baron, is that we would expect over time, especially next year when things start operating, utility bills and the reserves that you pay, the assessments you pay to the HOA will go down because you're not paying as much electrical, and your personal electrical bill will go up.
Okay, and kind of a final overview and reminder here. You guys have already seen this slide, but we'll run through it one more time as it's important dates. Unit walks, are going to start tomorrow through the 17th. Install of the mock-up HVAC equipment for acoustical review in the guest suites will start 2/21. Owner mock-up review that Baron talked more specifically about will start on March 4th. The construction crew mobilization begin March 10th of 25. Mechanical shaft and elevator lobby work at all levels begins March 24th of 25. Rooftop crane, again, is the approximate date of October 10th, 25. And getting into the unit work, interior unit work, October 31st, with special occupancy units beginning March 9th of 26, and then the demo beginning March 24th of 26. Next slide.
So this next summer, before we start in-unit work, we're going to have another town hall where we will cover this information, and we'll also expand some of the other topics that we're talking about and how it impacts you. We'll certainly go through the energy usage again. We'll go through the maps, those with the red lines that we've been talking about. And we will be kind of rolling out the details about what permission to entry looks like, who the people are, when we're specifically coming, and kind of what the overall communication protocol is going to be. So right here, we've documented the current plan that we have for how we're going to coordinate access to folks' units. And then the overall communications on the project. So there will be, and there is already, email correspondence, HVAC-project@cosmopolitanpdx.com. That's already being used. We've been getting emails. We will be providing weekly updates describing the progress and upcoming work. We will be providing a comprehensive forecast of all in-unit construction, and we'll be uploading that into Building Link in the next 2 weeks. What that's going to be is it's going to be a floor-by-floor description of when we are expecting to be on those floors. It's a reasonably accurate projection of when we're going to be in your floors, plus or minus a week, week and a half. As we get closer, as we get refinement, as we gain more information, if we go faster or slower than currently planned, we will be updating that. We'll be informing folks, and we'll make it very public. When it is time to come into your units, this is what we would like to do. We are planning on sending a personalized email to the contact we have on record at CHR. So please make sure that the right people are in contact with the Lance. That shows that map that we were describing, and with instructions about what we need to have removed along the path that we've marked there, and an invitation for you, if you have any questions, to coordinate for a conversation with our superintendent and our project coordinator to come in and document and tell you exactly where it is that you need to move things. You have a month to get things moved out of the way. A week ahead of time, you'll have a notice taped to your door with blue tape or green tape, something that's easy to remove and won't take the paint off or the finish. You'll also, 1 week ahead of time, receive an email. And that email is going to have a request acknowledging receipt. And the reason for that is we have, folks coming, we've got crews coming, and we want to make sure that we can move as planned. So we're asking for a response. If we do not get a response, then the phone calls and texts will start. Because we need to know within 24 hours that you understand that we're coming to your unit. Otherwise, we will have to go to an escalation with the board, who will take it to CHR and legal and whoever else in order to allow us to get entry to this facility, to your condo. We think that this should be a path that allows you to have as much information as accurately as possible, as early as possible, without massive swings of dates or trying to remember, 9 months ahead of time, what is it that I need to do? So we want to really make it timely and actionable. And then, of course, we'll be providing financial reports through and to the HVAC committee monthly, so you understand how it is we're spending against budget. So that's kind of an overview of what the ongoing communications are for right to entrance and accountability on the project through the balance of the project. Next slide. So dates to remember. We've said it 6, 7, 8 times now. We'll say it again. January 15th, that's tomorrow, through the 17th, we are coming to every unit in the building for 5 minutes to document the condition of your existing fan coil unit, so they know, is it a right side or is it a left side, so they can get the right one ordered before prices escalate. So this is time sensitive because manufacturers want to raise the costs of equipment. They've extended it for us through Friday from the beginning of the year. Thank you, manufacturers. But now we need to go make good on that promise to get them the information they need to secure our place in line and get 2024 pricing for equipment we're receiving in 2025. February 14th. On February 14th, guest suites 434 and 435 are going to be cleared out for preparation of the mock-up. On February 21st, those suites will be installed and turned into construction offices. There is going to be a period of time from March 4th or so until March 16th when you can ask DeLands or somebody to walk you up there and you can get in and see what's going on there. But we have 3 days, and we'll provide more details shortly. 3 days, an early morning, a midday, and an evening where you can have a one-on-one with Baron, who will walk you through what the system looks like. So Baron will be there together with DeLands to describe to you how that mock-up works. So you will actually get to see it with a real live engineer and hear it and experience it. We'll be using that mock-up to also understand any further acoustical attenuation that might need to be done in order to get that unit to get as close as possible to matching the acoustic profile of the units that you currently have. There's a concern that was raised early by the HVAC committee and the board. We don't want more noise in the building, and so this was taken very seriously by J.H. Kelly. They went out and found the quietest ones possible. Acoustics come in at different frequencies that have different impacts at different dB, the decibel levels. And so we've really tried to match it. If there's anything else that we need to do to get this as close as possible, what you're seeing, now will be the time when we do that investigation. That's the other big reason for the mock-up. March 10th, first floor parking, south bike room must be cleared. It gives us a week to dust everything out, make sure everybody is used to the new parking scheme, because on March 17th, 1 week later, construction crews will be mobilizing. We'll be taking over that garage completely. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have one more summer town hall in order to cover that in-unit work so that folks understand and hear our plan again, any refinement that might needed to have happened to make those final adjustments on what the dates are when we're coming, so that we're sharing again with you the best information we have at the most appropriate time. So these are the critical dates that are coming up. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. We have about 57 minutes now to go through the questions in the community. If you can, thank you, Shora, you raised your hand. Raise your hand, and that will be you will be called on in order. There's one topic I'd like to take a chance to address. It's been raised in our email several times, and that is ductwork issues. If you listen to the full description of the scope of work that's being performed on this project, the reason it was one of the reasons that this system was selected is that it allows us to plug the new unit, the new water source heat pump, directly into the location that the fan coil unit is. And the intent is for us to use the existing ductwork, dampers, and everything else that's in there to suitably provide heating and cooling. There will be a final balance, meaning they'll come through and make sure that the flows of the air out of the duct are what they're supposed to be. But any other work that's happening is not a part of the base contract work. There are a number of units we've heard have what we might call cold spots, where fresh air makeup is pulled from an exterior vent outside of your building. If you were to walk out on your patio, you might see them out on the patio or on the wall just outside the patio. There's a fresh air makeup vent because there's constantly exhaust coming out of your unit. There's toilet exhaust, there's dryer exhaust, and there's range hood exhaust. And all of that is pulling air out of your unit to get them out of the building and up the building, or up out of the roof. So that needs a fresh air makeup. That is a duct that comes in from the exterior of the wall into the plenum, what's called return air plenum, And the design intent originally was for that to be mixed with the fan coil unit at a nominal temperature and then charged back into your unit. If your system's not running, then what that does is it just dumps that air into the return air plenum. And so you might stand underneath the return air grill and feel cold air. It's that fresh air makeup. So one way to get around that is to turn your fan on, fan only, and it won't, it's 100% fan only, and it will just run all of the time. The air conditioner will still turn on heating or cooling mode, depending on if it is in demand, but that means you won't have that cold spot or hot spot. That will drive up energy. We are going, and there's another request that's similarly related about dust and filtration. Again, that's a part of the ductwork system. It's not part of our current scope. But because the number of requests have come through, we've asked JH Kelly and I&E to put together a proposal to do some investigation to confirm the status and make sure there's no anomalies, and then to present any possible solutions to that. And if they're cost effective, if it's something that the board feels like they've got money for, then it might be something that's considered. I'm not making any promises about those outcomes, but we are hearing those requests, and we are trying to provide that information back to the community so that folks understand why the performance is the way it is. And it's part of the original design. It's not a part of the system that we're addressing. So I wanted to address those 2 or 3 emails that have already come in asking about that issue. And with that, Delance, I believe you are running Q&A, handing things off, and then I'll just play quarterback to make sure we get the appropriate people answering.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt. First question.
Lance,
Good.
if I could add one thing to that, just to on the filtration, one of the items that has been upgraded is currently right now on the LG system, you can only run a 1-inch pleated filter that's a MERV 8 to a MERV 10. Those have all been upgraded to MERV 13 for the basis of design. So that will capture about 20% more dust and particulate matter. Also, the advantage of a MERV 13, since we've seen more and more wildfire in the Pacific Northwest, is it can actually capture the smoke particulate matter. So it's about 3 times smaller of a particulate matter is what the MERV 13 can capture, just to kind of put a bow on all the filtration stuff. Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Baron. I will start our Q&A. Looks like we have Short first, so we'll start with that.
Thanks. Real quick question, very, very quick question. In the diagram, it showed the crane on Overton, but it showed it west of 11th. Is that accurate? So it's not going to be actually in front of our building. It's going to be in front of the adjacent building?
I'll take that one. Yes, that is the only spot we can fit that crane to get the proper angle to get over the side of the parapet wall. So
Awesome.
It will sit actually partially over the Sitka apartments.
Awesome. Okay, the number 2 question real quick. Matt, you mentioned that the HOA costs would go down and the individual units would go up for the energy costs. Are you suggesting that eventually that's going to basically be cost neutral, or is it going to end up being more for the owners over time?
Well, I presume this is Scott I'm talking to. Hi, Scott.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
So if you look at the graph, and this is of course projecting flat utility rates, which is unreasonable, but if they stayed flat, it would actually go down nominally across the entire system. It's hard to go in and predict, unit by unit based on usage and load and what temperature you like it at. But if all things being equal, on an average unit across, the overall energy consumption should go down as it relates to electrical demand. And so we would expect that within a year and a half after kind of CHR has had a chance to analyze the new electrical bills, that you will see a decrease in your assessments related to energy usage for their central utility plant, and then you'll be paying an increase. So it should be pretty close to neutral, if not a small savings, for a set point to set point comparison.
Got it. Thank you. And then the last question is, all of the flyers in the building and all of your slides here talk about everything from 2 and up for the inspections that start tomorrow and stuff like this. I've sent multiple emails and I've called the concierge when are the SOUs going to be looked at? Because we run an appointment only business. I need to know when to be there, and I have not gotten a reply.
Yep. Baron, do you have a projection when the SOUs are expected to be walked?
So those are different units and different HVAC units going back in, and we already have the information we need to order and procure those items.
So there will not be a walkthrough of the SOUs at this time.
Not at this time.
Perfect. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. All right, next we have John.
Hey, thank you. I've got a couple quick questions. Number one, can we be in the unit during construction? I mean, obviously, we don't know exactly what's going to look like yet, but if we're willing to put up with zipping and unzipping the door and going back and forth, can we live in the unit during construction?
Take that one.
Go ahead, Colin. I saw you nodding. Can you describe what that's going to be like both during the day and off hours?
Corey, you
Colin,
want it?
wanna take it? You want me to take it? Yeah, I can take it. The answer is yes. What we can't do is obviously if we're creating a bunch of dust
Right,
and there's a bunch of dust going on, we can't have you opening those doors and then allowing all that dust to go into your occupied areas.
right.
So depending on the stage, you know, we'd have to talk about that. But as
Okay.
far as if you wanna lock yourself in there and kind of not disrupt the construction and up for the noise and stuff, then yes, you can stay in the unit.
And then
Right,
at
we-
night,
Yeah, sorry.
sorry, at night, it's the intent of I&E that you will have full usage of your kitchen, of your dining room. There will be those walls up still with the door passageways, but it is not the intent to dislocate people at night. And if you choose to stay through the construction noise and debris and inconvenience of these zip walls, you're welcome to stay there.
Yeah, the one caveat to that, John, if I know there's a couple units that have right in the pathway an island that we need to protect.
Yeah.
You saw that robust protection going down. If we have to protect, you know, quartz countertops and fine cabinetry and all that stuff, that'll be down the duration of our construction.
Right.
So the island in particular wouldn't be something you could use, but being able to access your kitchen and utilize the other stuff, that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, great. So I'm in a 14 block unit, so you're gonna have to come in my door down the hallway. One of the pictures had the red line going right down my hallway. There is a chase along the ceiling, and I'm assuming that's where you have to get into. You're not gonna rip up our floors or our interior walls. You're gonna go through the ceiling to get to my closet, which is at the end of the entry hallway.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
the only areas that we might be accessing walls would be where we have to come down the wall to get to electrical panels. That's pretty
Right.
accurate, right, Barry?
Yes, for the electrical panels and also for the thermostats.
For the thermostats, yeah. But in
Okay.
general, everything else is in the ceilings.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
so that's the middle picture, me there and every other 14 unit. So once you get to our closet, then you have to turn right and go through our guest room to get to the panel. Will that be through the ceiling and down the wall, but not through the middle of the room or through the closet? Is that correct?
That's accurate.
Yeah.
Okay, great, great. All right, perfect. That's all I had. Thank you very much. Very helpful.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Next we have Tim.
You're still.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. We really appreciate it. This is going to be quite an adventure. I have four quick questions. You showed a slide of a proposed thermostat that you all have selected for each of the units. The same thermostat, I suspect, will be in each unit. Once this is all done, will individual unit owners be able to change their thermostat to something different, something more simple than what you have?
So the easy answer to that, Tim, is yes, you can change it to a Nest or Ecobee or anything like that. However, you'll lose some function of the system. In newer HVAC over the last 5 years, this is referred to as full communicating. And so it has the ability to have more finite adjustments throughout it. As you see in a previous slide to this one, it stated EC motors. So the motor actually matches with how fast or slow the compressor is running. Yeah, right there at the top of the slide, EC motors. So it's basically, instead of having multiple stages, it actually is infinite in its fan setting. You'll lose some of the functions if we go to a Nest or Ecobee stat. So that's one of the reasons why we are outfitting with the proprietary Climate Master thermostat to begin with.
Okay, I think that most of the functions that those complicated thermostats are set up for, programming when it comes on and off at different times of the day and night, all that kind of stuff is stuff that I don't use. But anyway, my next question, you all are going to be removing a ton of equipment from each individual unit, from the roofs and so on. Some of that equipment is going to be in really good shape, that hasn't broken down and has never been repaired or needed to be repaired. What's going to happen to those truckloads of equipment that you're taking out of the building?
Matt, do you want to take that one?
You're on mute, bud.
Depending on where the lawsuit is, those will either be retained for any further investigation by the defendants or the plaintiffs. If the court case is settled, then we'll be issuing a change order to J.H. Kelly to haul them off. Because of copper and other metals in there, I imagine there will be some sort of limited recycling for them, but it is not our intent at this point to spend money on reuse or replacement of them. They are a proprietary system, the LG. They cannot be used with anything except for LG. And that LG system, as you are probably aware, has a number of litigation suits surrounding it. And I don't know of anybody who's actually looking to put an LG, what is it? Is this generation 6? Into a building. So they are, from a functional standpoint, trash, and it's not worth our time to go do it. But to the degree that any metals can be pulled out, I imagine there will be folks who will be willing to put the time in to scrap them.
Okay, thank you. Next question, quickly. There's going to be a lot of activity in and out of the building with cranes and trucks and all kinds of people coming in and out and delivering and all kinds of stuff. And the surrounding buildings are going to notice this change in activity in the neighborhood. Are surrounding buildings going to be notified that there is a construction process going on and it's going to take X number of months and that kind of thing?
You know, we hadn't really thought through notification of other buildings yet. It's probably a worthwhile comment, Tim, and we'll take that up with the HVAC committee about being in touch with them. I do know that there is a level of communication that happens, but the specifics around all of the access, the timing, and the traffic, I don't believe that has been robustly communicated with our neighbors, and it's probably a good suggestion. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. And then lastly, so all this construction will occur and eventually in early 2026, you all will leave and we will live happily ever after in our new building or in our new HVAC building. Let's just say hypothetically a year later down the line, some of the same or similar kinds of failures start to occur in the system. What is the warranty on this system that you all are putting in place here?
I'll take that one. So currently we have the base manufacturer warranties. I have a 2-page document that sent on to the HVAC committee that has all of the different ones, because since there's different equipment, different manufacturers, I can't just say there's a 1-year, 5-year, or what it is. However, we do have an option for buy-ups on extended warranties. And as the project moves forward, we'll figure out what extended warranties we'll look at providing the owners. But they currently vary from 1 year to 5 years for warranties right now, depending on the piece of equipment.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Tim. Next, we have Alper.
Oh, hi. On the slides that outline the in-unit work, those pathways shown in red, they are identified as pathways in ceilings and walls from mechanical closets to electrical panels. Do those also identify the paths the existing units will be moved out and the new units will be moved in to the existing utility closet?
I was just looking to get in these two circumstances, yes, that will be the pathway that the fan coil comes in and out of the unit. In most of the unit locations, that is correct. In some of them, it's slightly different because we'll actually shortcut through a wall. If you go, Hannah, can you go back one slide? So in this one, you can see that the unit actually sits in the top right-hand corner of this slide. That unit sits in a utility room. That unit will have to come around the corner and out the front door. But you are correct. In that other one, the red pathways are the routes that will be going in and out of the unit.
What about the unit at the bottom of the screen where basically it's right next to the shaft?
So the ones right next to the
exactly that one.
shaft,
Right.
yeah,
So
we'll have
like
to go into the family room / kitchen and to the front door from there. So everything has to go out the front door and in the front door.
so is it correct to assume that again I'm trying to like the you're saying you're identifying that route as a pathway in ceiling, but in reality you're going to have to open a giant hole in that on those two walls, because that's basically what you're seeing. That square space is a den, so there are going to be two giant holes in those two walls so that you can move the existing unit out and then bring the new one in. Does that make sense?
No, that's not correct. So that pathway is for the utilities that'll be in the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
To get the unit in and out, we'll actually go just like that cursor's going there. It'll go out the pathway just like walking in and out of your unit.
Oh, okay. All right. That clarifies. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you. Looks like anyone else have any other questions? Looks like I got one message asking if we can get the in-unit map and schedule earlier than a month for people that travel a lot.
Baron or Colin, you guys are the masters of those maps.
Yeah, I think if those people want to reach out to you, Delance, I mean, it's gonna be tough to do all of them, but if we knew there were certain people that were under those circumstances, if they could reach out to you and you forward it to us, we'll make every effort to get those earlier. We just can't promise it for everybody. It's a lot.
Yep.
And currently we are still in design technically. We've submitted for permits, but we don't have final approved drawings, and that's one of the items we're looking for. So that's one of the reasons for not issuing the finals at this point in time.
Right. And then last one I got message was this the construction company providing 2 space heaters, and how about the summer months? Can we still use the AC during construction?
So
Yeah,
for
so-
the heaters, go for it, Corey.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, bud.
So for the heaters, you'll be provided one for every bedroom and one for the common area. So depending if you have a 1-bedroom, you'll have 2 heaters, 2-bedroom, you'll have 3, so on and so forth. As far as cooling, one of the reasons why we've positioned this project in schedule the way we have is to actually not do any of the down work during the summer months. So that's why we have certain target dates, like the first part of October to hit for the crane, is because we're going to be on the tail side of the cooling season. We may still get a couple warm days throughout there, but we're using the winter months to do the bulk of the work where the systems will actually be down. So it's very schedule dependent. Again, there may be a few warm days in October, but that's kind of the shoulder season typically in Oregon. So we're using that to our advantage, where we'll only have to provide temporary heating, no temporary cooling.
Thanks, Baron. Looks like we have Joe.
Can you go back to the floor plan for the 16 stack? Eventually. Yeah, I think it's on that second one. So it's coming down and teeing off, going through our den to the left and over to the right to get to our power panel. Can you tell me whether you're going to need to be just on the north side of that wall, or we need to be on the south side of that wall where the power panel is as well? Because the power panel is in the bedroom.
So at this time, we should only be on the south side of it.
Okay, because but looking at things means our unit will be completely useless at that point, because that will block access from our bedroom to the bathroom. And so we won't really be able to move around in there at all.
So that'll be through the
I guess
ceiling
maybe.
and down the wall. But
Uh-huh.
that's just an electrical run in the ceiling.
Right. You'll be putting in the barricades and whatnot into the bedroom, I'm assuming, while you're doing all that work in there. So that's gonna make access pretty hard.
We will, Joe, but we'll be putting in those zip walls that you saw where we could zip up the access at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, you can freely move room to room.
Right. It's just, yeah. So actually, I saw earlier, I saw somewhere on one of the slides, or I don't know if it was in the elevator, that there was some discussion about alternate housing. I don't know where I saw that, but I saw that somewhere in the agenda or something. Is there any options being offered?
No, at this point, in order to, conserve overall project budget throughout the community, emptying the building and finding alternate housing is not a part of the project budget.
Okay.
I do know that there are some folks who are hoping to be gone on vacation or in someplace else for those 3 weeks. They don't even want to put up with it at all. And I know others don't have the option, and we'll be doing everything we can to make it as comfortable as possible. But at this point, the project does not have budget to pay for hotels or other places folks to stay.
When the people come in to do the walkthrough for looking at the HVAC existing now, would they be able to give any like quick input on the path type stuff?
Yes. So,
Yeah.
so if you recall, Hannah, can you go back to that notification? So we will be sending a month ahead of time, a personalized map of what that routing is.
No, I meant this coming week with what they're doing this week when they're coming in to look at the unit. Will they be able to give any kind of brief input at that point, or are they a completely different group of people?
That's Baron. That's a question for you. I don't know without design or drawings if you guys are gonna be ready to do that, but
I would say we can do our best, but we're going in and out of these units so fast that wasn't the intention.
Yes, for us, it really is just whether or not, we're going to have access between our bedroom and bathroom. Because if not, then we have to be out of here. Because we can't.
I will be the one coming through along with a few other people. I will do my best to go over it with you. If we can do a real quick run through, I will give you as much time as I possibly can.
Okay, great. Thank you.
What unit are you, Joe?
1316.
So that's
but
Thursday.
all the 16s are going to be the same from
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it looks like we're the ones most impacted. It just takes over the entire center of the condo. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Looks like we have one question through chat. It says, what kind of protections will be used to protect furniture, kitchen islands, etc., for the removal and hauling of new equipment?
Colin, I think you probably know best. Furniture, artwork, those kind of things that can be moved out of the construction areas, those are the things we're gonna require to be removed. But like islands and so on, Colin, you kind of want to talk about that? Maybe pull up the slide because you've got a very robust plan on those.
Yeah, stationary objects, fixed objects, we'll just have to work around that. But as far as furniture, artwork, those kinds of things, we'll identify that pathway, show you each, every single one of you is going to have a unit specific plan. It's going to show the pathway. We'll walk with you in advance. We'll need the furniture and all that stuff moved out of our way prior to mobilization.
But like islands and those kind of things, it'll be a combination of different products that we use to make sure that's well protected with either the plastic sheetings, bubble wraps, whatever it is. We'll give you an idea on those areas when we walk through exactly what we'll be using for those.
Excellent. Thank you. Next we have Michael.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm not sure about other folks here, but I actually find that the building stays pretty warm during the winter and have to run the air at times in the evening just to get it cooled down for sleeping. Is there any thought gone into that scenario? I know I could always open a window, but the train that runs by here is pretty loud, so just kind of curious.
So you're spot on, Michael, as far as cooling in the wintertime would be to use the outside air, and that would be cracking up a window and possibly running your kitchen fan to have actual full-on ventilation rather than just letting the natural ventilation occur.
Okay, but that's the only solution then, yeah?
That is correct.
Okay.
Just for sake of throwing it out there, when we did look at possible temporary cooling, that was just over $1 million that was pulled out of the project to pull that out. So it's substantial.
Understood, thanks.
Thank you, Michael. Doesn't look like I have any further questions at this time.
Okay, well, Matt, this is Paul. Do you want to wrap things up or you want me to wrap it up?
No, either way, we don't have much else to say. I just want to say thanks to everybody for having us here. We will be seeing you at 8:30 tomorrow morning if you're in the top floors, and we'll be working our way down over the following 2.5 days. Wanted to make sure that you have the email address. Hannah, can you flash that up on the screen one more time, please? So if you've got questions, you can send them there. We'll do our best to start working through those and responding to them. Work is coming. We're excited to be a part of this. There will be, I'm sure, some hiccups along the way. We've really done a lot of time, put a lot of time into planning and thinking about this, and trying to make it as seamless as possible. The email, again, hvac-project@cosmopolitanpdx.com. That is the end of our presentation. Appreciate everybody's time. Paul, hand it back to you for closing out and saying goodnight.
Sure. Great, thanks, Matt. Well, hey, on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank this team for sticking with us through a long haul. This is I'd like to point out, this is, I think, our 5th HVAC related town hall. And I think at least 3 of those prior ones, I think 1 was financial and 3 prior were a lot of these people telling us about the project. So I'd like to thank this team. I know the community really appreciates the work you've done, and we look forward to working with you guys and getting through this project. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm really excited by the system we're getting, the team we've got, and I really think that in 2 years' time, or less than 2 years' time, this will be behind us. So thank you very much. And thanks to everyone for joining us, and look forward to talking to you again in the future. Delons, that'll end the meeting.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, folks.